Y'all, I made a script for this video, like an actual script. Like I normally have just bullet points, but that's how strongly I feel about this fucking book, that I could not risk missing a single thought. And it's also Get Ready With Me, because let's test my patience with coordination while trying to read a script, but also applying my makeup at the same time. Anyway, I've been ranting about this book to literally anybody who would listen. It's been about a month or so since I finished it, and I have read one other book in the meantime, but I wanted to sit and stew in my hatred so that way I could come to you fine people and just have all of my thoughts organized. I've been telling all my friends about this, my family, Twitter. I hated this book so much, I wanted to wipe it from my memory the moment I finished it. So of course I have to make a video about it and get some content out of this horrible experience. So that's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna put on makeup and talk about this horrible book. It's gonna be a long one, so strap in. And I'm probably gonna finish my makeup before the video is actually over, or before my long rant is over. But I'm just gonna keep talking and you're gonna keep listening. So I guess I'll get started. I'm not going to apply primer because I applied my sunscreen and I find that does a pretty good job already. So we're going to go straight into concealer. Okay, so let's get the disclaimers out of the way. I'm probably going to swear a lot because when I feel passionate about hating something and not towards another person, I tend to swear a lot to really emphasize the things I'm saying. That's just how passionate I got about hating this fucking book. Second disclaimer, absolutely no shade to Miss Jennifer Armentrout. Get that bread, baby. Third, and perhaps the most important disclaimer, this is just my opinion. It's just my opinion. If this is your favorite book or your favorite trope or your favorite couple in book form, don't come for me. If Hawk is like your peak ideal man, don't come for me. You go off. You go, girl. We don't all have to agree. This is just my criticism of the book, of the couple, of the portrayal, whatever. If you love the book and it angers you to all hell to hear people talk shit about it, this is not the video for you. Click out now. Better yet, go make your own video about how much you love it instead of yelling at me in the comments section. Don't waste your time. You're not gonna convince me. Okay, so first question that we need to answer. What is this book about? From Blood and Ash is about a girl named Poppy who is locked away and kept completely hidden from fucking everybody, isolated from society, because she is the maiden, the chosen, in quotation marks, the future of her people and her kingdom. And she can only be seen and touched by a small group of people that is like pre-chosen for her. Like there's people whose jobs it is to like be friends with her. She keeps a veil over her face and like completely covers up her body all the time because she is like this virginal kind of character to these people. Why? It's never actually explained. And naturally, she's secretly a badass bitch because one of her personal guards has been training her since she was like, I don't know, 15 or whatever. How old the fuck she is? No, she's like 18. I think she's like 18 in the book. But yeah, he's been training her for like the past 5 years to be a badass bitch, so she can protect herself. And then when tragedy strikes and she's in need of a new personal guard, we get our main hunky-dory, Mr. Hawk himself, our love interest, assigned to her as her personal guard. So he comes into the picture with his golden amber eyes and his twitching jaw that she never shuts the fuck up about, and immediately starts tempting this bitch, like breaking all kinds of rules. A bunch of shit happens that makes Poppy like question literally everything she's ever known about her world and what she's been told about her role as the maiden. So I guess the moral of the story is that things are not always what they seem. People in your life could be lying to you and hiding shit from you and blah, 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 blah. That's pretty much what the story's about. She's been lied to all her fucking life. And in the meantime, she's falling in love with this dude. And that's pretty much it. Oh yes, I forgot one disclaimer. There's gonna be spoilers, probably in this next section. There's gonna be spoilers, so if you don't want spoilers for this book and you're planning to read it, my condolences. I will throw up a timestamp right here where you can go and watch the rest of this review spoiler-free without the entire play-by-play of the plot from beginning to end. So yeah, timestamp here, skip to this if you don't want spoilers. Before we get into the beat by beat playthrough, I'm going to apply my foundation. But also we're going to talk about the characters individually, specifically just Hawk and Poppy, and some of their key personality traits, of which there are few. Oh, the concealer I used was the Dose of Colors Meet Your Hue concealer in the shade 08 Light. And now I'm going in with my Rare Beauty foundation in the shade 160C. Oof, the sun is coming out. I need to fix this lighting. It's kind of better. We'll see. The lighting is going to change a lot because I rely on natural lighting, and it's kind of cloudy outside, but it keeps getting lighter and darker and lighter and darker, so nah. The makeup is not the full priority in this video. It is the book review because I just need to get my rant out. Throw my dots on here. Boom, 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 boom. Beyond telling you what I'm using, I'm not actually going to talk about the makeup that much because we got a lot to get through. This is going to be a long video already. Okay, so Poppy, our girl, has like 3 distinct personality traits. She is the maiden, the chosen, and she's going to remind you of that literally any chance that she gets. She is good with weapons. That's her second personality trait. We're never shown this except in maybe like 3 scenes. She giggles at things that aren't funny. That's the third personality trait she has. And she lets her mouth just hang open a lot. Like, I don't know why, but the author goes out of her way to tell me that, like, Poppy lets her mouth hang open all the goddamn time. But actually a lot of the characters do that. Like, there's a lot of points in the story where the character will just be like, let their mouth hang open. It's like, why? Was what they said like that surprising? I don't let my mouth hang open when I'm surprised. I don't like how drying sometimes this foundation can be, especially when I've let my base kind of set. So I'm going to throw some setting mist over top. Okay, so Hawk, our main squeeze, also has only 3 distinct personality traits. He has a dimple in his right cheek that appears suddenly in almost every second page. We hear about the dimple. He smells like spice and pine. This is also repeated several times. And his jaw twitches when he thinks too hard, which is strange. Oh, and he also completely disrespects all of Poppy's boundaries and her consent. And he is a perpetual sad boy because Poppy can feel it with her power. He's just always sad. That is one of his personality traits. He's always sad. Okay, so we're getting into the spoilerific part of the video. So once again, if you don't want any spoilers for this book, if you want to read it for yourself, you don't want a play-by-play of the whole plot, you can skip ahead to this here timestamp. Once again, training begins now. So we start off in a tavern called the Red Pearl, where we find Poppy playing cards with some of the guards. None of them know who she is because she's wearing a mask. A lot of the other tavern ladies are wearing masks as well. And they wouldn't have known if it was her, even if she wasn't wearing a mask, because she's pretty much veiled all the time. So no one knows what she looks like except for like a select group of people. And we find out, because she's using it, we find out that she has this power to feel other people's sad or pained emotions. And she's trying to use it on these guards to see if they are somehow in pain for some reason. It is forbidden for her to tell anyone that she has this gift, so it's actually forbidden for her to even use it, but she just uses it willy-nilly whenever she feels like it. And here we get our first of many info dumps. And she tells us through inner monologue all about this world. We learn that we are in the Kingdom of Solace, S-O-L-I-S. We learn that there's essentially all of these walled off cities that exist in this world that protect the cities from something called the Mist, with a capital M, and the monsters that come with the Mist, and the walls that protect these cities are called Rises, with a capital R, and that we are currently in the city of Macedonia. A lot of the cities and city names and place names in this world are based off of real places, like the names, but just spelt slightly differently. There's also a mention of a War of Two Kings, but we don't hear much of that until like, I think a little bit later into this chapter, where she like info dumps us again. We hear about her dagger that is strapped to her thigh. She tells us all about this in the first chapter, and we keep hearing about it throughout the rest of this fucking book. It is made of a wolven bone. Wolvens are werewolves in this story, by the way. Not traditional like full moon transforming werewolves, but more like Twilight werewolves where they can turn into wolves whenever they fucking feel like it. That as a concept I don't actually have an issue with. And the blade of this dagger is made of bloodstone, which in this world is the only thing that can kill certain types of monsters. Anyway, she tells us that it's strapped to her thigh, and we'll hear about it again and again and again and again and again. What's funny is that she mentions it in comparison to the guards being armed to the teeth. And I'm like, bitch, you have one dagger. That's not being armed to the teeth. That's not what that means. Being armed to the teeth means you have, it's that scene in Sinbad where, oh God, what's his name? Rat is pulling all of the weapons out of his fucking pants and placing them on the table while everyone's out having the party. And by the time they have to leave, he's still pulling weapons out. That is armed to the teeth. Not one dagger. Not one dagger. Then she goes on to tell us that she's amassed quite the collection of weapons, which we never see her use. We only ever see her use a dagger and a bow and maybe like a sword, but it's not actually her sword. She takes it from an enemy that she's fighting. Anyway, these guards are talking about how their friend Finley was found dead outside the blood forest. We don't know what that means. She hasn't explained it. Completely dried up of blood and torn up. Yum, I wonder if there's vampires in this book. These two guards that she's talking to are named Eric and Phillips. They'll come back later, and by later I mean in the last 100 pages of the book. This is a 600-page book. She's giving us names for characters who come back like 500 pages later, which normally is fine if they're like major characters, but they're two guards who end up dying anyway. I mean, spoiler, but you're already here, so you're here for the spoilers. She tells us again through some inner monologue. I should probably do my makeup. This is gonna keep happening. I'm gonna keep getting distracted by the script in front of me. I'm gonna go in with my ColourPop Pretty Fresh Hyaluronic Acid Concealer just underneath my eyes. But she tells us again through inner monologue that if she's discovered to have snuck out, that her guardian, the Duke Dorian Tierman, and his friend Brandel Mazin, she goes out of her way to tell us these characters' names, even though we haven't met them yet. Like, she just, the way that she delivers exposition is infuriating. But anyway, she tells us that her guardian and this Brandel Mazin whatever is gonna punish her if they find out that she's out. And then thinking about that throws her into a fucking fit of anxiety, worried that people might recognize her. It's kind of a bit late for that, Poppy, but okay. You should have thought of that earlier. But then it goes on to imply that this isn't the first time that she's done this, and it's like, has this never occurred to you before now? But we honestly hear so many names of people and places in the first 3 fucking pages of the book that I almost just tapped out completely. I was very nearly done. I had no patience for it. Actually, I did do that. I read the first like few pages of the book, got kind of bored, and my boyfriend had left a book out by Jay Kristoff's new book, The Empire of the Vampire. I picked that up because I was curious. My boyfriend was on a holiday, so he wasn't actually here. So I picked it up and I started reading it, and I didn't put it down. Like, I completely abandoned From Blood and Ash and read that one instead. Because it was, at least the first few pages were significantly more engaging. Unfortunately, I ended up coming back to this one. My bad. So the other things that we learn about in the first fucking chapter, and this is all delivered through a monologue, by the way. She can only wear white. She has a brother named Ian, who is an ascended now, and is married to someone that he never speaks of. This woman is never mentioned again beyond this chapter. She will also ascend, Miss Poppy will also ascend in less than a year on her 19th birthday, so she is 18. No mention of whatever the hell that means, other than being given to the gods. And then the Duke and Duchess, her guardians, are also ascended. The ascended live for a very, very long time. They're basically immortal. I wonder if they're vampires. We learn about her name, which I honestly forgot for the first 3 chapters. I was like, what the fuck is this bitch's name? Her name is Penelope of the House Balfour, nicknamed Poppy. It's a very unfortunate name. I like the name Penelope, but I don't know why it's Penelope, which is with a PH. I don't get it. Just name her Penelope. She tells us twice in the first chapter that she is the maiden, the chosen, in exactly that order. And every time that she brings it up, it's going to be exactly in that order. And that she thinks she's not beautiful, even though the rest of the book tells us otherwise. Classic. So while she's in this tavern, she starts to feel like she's being watched. And then when she starts to look around and poke her nose where she shouldn't be poking her nose into, one of the barmaids stops her and somehow knows that she's the maiden. What a shocker. How does she know that? I don't know. I wonder if she was followed or something. She says something suspicious about the Ascended that spurs Poppy into yet another inner monologue of being like, oh, I wonder if she doesn't support the Duke and Duchess. They're the king and queen or whoever. And we get more info dumping, this time where we learn about some people called dissenters who don't agree that the king and queen are the rightful rulers of the kingdom. And their names are Queen Ileana and King Jalara. Those names do not have any importance in this book. We never meet them in this book. I don't know why she decided to tell me their names. I'm not going to remember them. But instead, these dissenters, which is spelt Descenters, because there's the ascended and the dissenters. It's clever. They instead support Prince Castile, who is also called the Dark One. He's super evil. He's an outcast prince of Atlantean, which is a cruel and corrupt kingdom that was overthrown by the current one during the War of Two Kings. So we get some exposition about what the War of Two Kings was. Gee, I wonder if the history books she's been reading have somehow twisted the truth to make Atlantean out to be the evil ones. I predicted the plot of this book from the first fucking chapter, I swear. And I wonder if this Dark One is actually being framed and the evil ones are actually the Ascended. Wouldn't that be a shock? What a twist. I'd never have seen that coming. We get more names of places: the Three Rivers, Goldcrest Manor, temples, Duke Everton. Good fucking Lord, there's so many names in this chapter. No wonder I tapped out. Speaking of tapping out, I'm gonna tap on some contour. This is my KKW contour stick. I really like this contour stick. It's probably one of my favorites, so I really want to try the Fenty matchsticks. Okay, so as I'm putting this on, she's freaking out because she thinks this lady is against the Duke and Duchess, but instead of actually doing anything about it, she just freaks out internally. And then, whoa, someone comes into the bar that she knows, and it's Victor, her personal guard, who's known her since she first came to the city when she was like 5? I think she was 5 years old when she came to the city. Yeah, I don't care. She never actually tells us. Or maybe she does, and I just wasn't paying attention because I don't care. But he apparently knows her so well that he'd be able to recognize her even if she was wearing a mask. So she needs to hide. But not to worry though. This mysterious lady, who knows somehow that she's the maiden, ushers her upstairs to hide in a room until her honor guard leaves, because he's apparently a regular, and that's like a weird thing to Poppy. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna put on my Viseart eyeshadow primer first, because I need to go in here with some contour. Anyway, she gets ushered upstairs to hide out until Victor leaves, because that's not suspicious at all. Are we at all surprised that the room that she's ushered into is not empty? No, no. And now we've finally gotten to chapter 2 after what feels like a fucking eternity. I promise these first few chapters are the longest because that's where most of the info dumping happens. She tells us literally everything about her world in the first 2 chapters of this fucking book, and then the rest of it I can just speed through. Anyway, in this room, our boy Hawk is conveniently hiding out in, and he mistakenly, quote unquote mistakenly, confuses her as somebody else. Here we get our first steamy scene. Literally in the first 2 fucking chapters, slow burn, I barely knew her, but not before. We get 2 whole pages of info dumping. 2 whole pages of info dumping about this guy. And literally every time Poppy has seen him, every sighting Poppy has ever had of this man is explained in these 2 pages of info dumping about him. And then when we finally return to the scene, he pulls her into the bed and there's some witty banter, as will continue throughout this book, but really it's just him goading her or being condescending and her getting mad at him, but still being like, oh, but he's so handsome and tortured, or some such bullshit. Hawk in this scene starts calling her princess because she complains when he won't get off of her while he's lying on top of her. And apparently that's being too demanding and deserves the nickname of princess because she's being demanding by asking him to get off of her when he's lying on top of her. Can you see my brain cells literally jumping ship? This book makes me so angry. I'm so angry. But this is also a thing that continues throughout the rest of the book. Him calling her princess and him continuing to do things when she asks him to stop. And it makes me want to rip my fucking eyes out whenever I read about it. But Poppy goes out of her way. I loved this scene. This was really funny. Poppy goes out of her way to point out that Hawk doesn't talk in a derogatory way about other women the way that other men do. So this is the book literally just awarding feminist points to itself, I guess, or to Hawk specifically. even though he still keeps doing things when Poppy tells him to stop doing those things. So the feminism apparently stops when he's the one being asked not to do stuff. It doesn't apply to him. He's one of the good ones. Anyway, he tells Poppy that she intrigues him. I don't know why she intrigues him. He just tells her that she's intriguing. Doesn't give her any fucking reason. But they make out for a bit, whatever. I was completely uninvested in this whole scene because I like a slow burn. I really like a slow burn, and this was not that. This was too much too fast, and I really wasn't about it, but that's just my personal gripe. Some people might like that, and honestly, that is not the biggest issue that I have with this book. Now we must blend. I'm sorry if the mirror bothers you. I'm just gonna keep emoting with it throughout this whole video, So the whole time this is happening, Miss Poppy is trying to convince me that this is a big fucking deal. Like, she shouldn't be doing this. This is not allowed, and she could get in such big trouble. It's a forbidden act that might make her be found unworthy of her ascension, and that is a big deal. And I'm like, bitch, it's been 2 chapters. You've info dumped the fuck out of the last 20 pages of this book. I barely know you, and you're telling me that I should be invested enough to understand and care what is happening here. You're telling me that the stakes are high, and you're not showing me that. Am I expected to just believe this 20 pages into the book? It's the 2nd chapter, and you're setting up these massively high stakes, or at least telling me about them, and expecting me to care? No. Like, I'm sorry, but this sounds like a you problem. You got yourself into this fucking mess. But we forget about that in a second because Hawk gets handsy, and he finds her dagger. He places his hand on her dagger and then claims she doesn't know how to use it. And she flexes her feminism and is like, oh, it's because I'm a woman, isn't it? And she gets all fake outraged. But she tells him, she assures him, oh, I know how to use it. I know how to use it. And then Hawk is intrigued again. He's just perpetually intrigued to the point where I think it's some kind of weird condition that he has. Bro, go to the doctor. But it doesn't matter because they're interrupted by Hawk's buddy, Kieran, another name that we don't see until the last 100 pages of the book. And here we have a moment where I'm told, literally just told, that Hawk is funny because he says some shit and Poppy giggles. That's really just a thing that she does a lot, is giggle. For no fucking reason. Like a fucking toddler. But wait, let me read you the excerpt, because I have the book here with all these fucking sticky notes. Let me read you the excerpt from here where she's meant to giggle, because this made me stop and take a picture of this passage in the book and send it to all of my friends. A fist pounded on the door, silencing whatever he was about to ask. Hawk, a male voice rang out. You in there? He stiffened above me, his warm breath against my lips as he closed his eyes. It's Kieran, the man called out a name I didn't recognize. As if I didn't know that already, Hawk muttered under his breath, and a small giggle left me. Bitch, that's not funny. That is not funny. Don't be telling me this guy's funny if he's not actually funny. Ugh. Cringe. So much cringe in this book. Literally every conversation they have, I'm just like, ugh. Next, the scene ends, finally, and we're back with Poppy at home, where she's now relaying the events of the night prior to her best friend, Tawny, the only person of color in this book, and Miss Jennifer names her Tawny. I don't know about that. Anyway, we learned that Tawny is Poppy's assigned companion. It's like her job to be Poppy's friend. Later, Victor goes to Poppy's room. Victor is the guard that we saw that she needed to hide from, and says that they've been summoned. And then this is when we learn that Victor and Poppy are part of a secret network of people who go around and help people who've been cursed. Basically turned into zombies by being bitten by other zombies. And zombies in this world are like degenerate versions of vampires. They're like bitten and created by vampires as well, but also by other cursed. Cursed are the zombies. But the bite is infectious. And you need to kill them by stabbing them in the heart or the head with bloodstone, like the bloodstone dagger that Poppy conveniently has. And they do this discreetly because if the townsfolk and the city find out that you are cursed, you will be essentially made an example of and hung up in the streets to die, and like they make an example of you. And there's a group of these people, of which Victor and Poppy are a part of, that don't like this happening, so they go around and kill them before they become a problem. Mercy killings, basically. They do that for a whole chapter. Nothing interesting happens. Nothing of note happens. Overview, they go and kill a bunch of people. 2, I think. They kill 2 people. One happens on page. The other one happens off page. And then this never comes up again. Like, they never talk about it again, except in one scene where Hawk tells Poppy that he does the same thing and he's also part of this secret organization. But then they never talk about that again either, so it literally means nothing. I guess the only important thing that happens is that Victor actually confronts Poppy, and we get the first of many conversations, both internally and externally, where Poppy is hesitant to ascend, and we kind of learn about it. And she alludes to it for so long in this book, like every single scene, she's like, oh, what if I'm actually hesitant about this ascension? And before finally deciding that, yeah, she is kind of hesitant about this ascension, but it's like pulling teeth to get her to tell the reader. But we still have no clue what ascension means. We're just told that she's hesitant about it. Victor, you have to understand, is like the walking info dump. So when Miss Jennifer gets tired of having the info dump happen in Poppy's head, we get it externally through Victor. Because you know what they say, variety is the spice of life. The next day she goes for like a walk or something, and then we meet her current guard, Rylan, through one of the most stupid and cringy scenes in the whole book. Let me read it to you, actually. Ugh. Okay, yeah, so this scene, she is getting ready to go out with Rylan, and he asks her, let me just read the scene. Going somewhere, Pen? He asked. Pen. Rylan was the only one who called me that. I liked it. I let go of the door, and it slowly inched back, bumping my shoulder. I don't know. He grinned at me as he ran a hand over his light brown hair. It's time, isn't it? Glancing behind me to the windows, I saw that it was dusk. Surprise flickered through me. I'd wasted an entire day in self-reflection. She doesn't have a thought in her head. Priestess Analia would be thrilled to hear that, but not the reasons. Either way, I wanted to punch myself in the face. But it was time. I nodded and started to step out. I think you're forgetting something, he said, tapping a finger on his bearded cheek. My veil! Good gods, I'd almost walked out into the hall without it or a hood, other than my guardians, the Duke and Duchess and Tawny. Only Victor and Rylan were allowed to see me without my veil. Well, the King and Queen could, and Ian was permitted, but obviously... She goes out of her way to be like, only these people. Oh, but this person too, and this person... Ian was permitted, but obviously they weren't here. If anyone else had been in the hall, they would have possibly fallen over in a dead faint. I'll be right back. His grin increased as I whipped around and hurried back into the room, slipping the veil over my head. It took a little more than a couple of minutes to clasp all the little chains so it was secured in place. Tawny was so much faster at it than I was. I started back out. Shoes, Pen. You should put some shoes on. Looking down at myself, I let out a very unladylike groan. Gods, one moment. Rylan chuckled. Totally scatterbrained, I towed on my well-worn shoes, which were nothing more than satin and a thin leather sole, and then reopened the door. Having a bad day, Rylan mused as he joined me in my room. Having a weird day. We established that she's forgetful, but then she never forgets anything again. This is the only time this ever happens. But look, guys, she's so quirky. Sorry, I had to figure out my lighting situation because it got really dark outside really quickly. There's a bit of a snowstorm happening, so we have our little LED light on top of the camera, and hopefully that's good enough. This video, again, is not so much about the makeup as it is about me yelling at you about this stupid book. I am at the mercy of the natural lighting. So we now meet a new character. Well, new character. We finally meet the character that she's been talking about in chapter 1, Mr. Brandel Mazin, while she's out on her walk. And this is chapter 5, by the way. She mentions him the first time in chapter 1, and we don't see him until chapter 5. I feel like she could have waited to tell us about this guy. But on her walk, she sees this dude, and he like demands to take her aside privately, and there's like heavy implication of SA, and she can like literally do nothing about it to defend herself, because if she does, then they're gonna know, like her guardians are gonna know that her guard Victor trained her, and then Victor's gonna get in trouble. So essentially, just to protect the people that she loves, she does literally nothing about it and lets this guy get away with like all of the creepy shit that he does. He's basically Jafar from Aladdin, but lots of, oh, they can do whatever the fuck they want to me energy with Poppy. But that's like stopped pretty quickly because, oh no, there's some screaming. And then in an adjacent room, they find a dead serving girl who's been drained of all her blood. Again, I wonder, are there vampires in this book? Probably. Oh shit. Oh shit. Ooh, it's actually like blizzarding outside. But yeah, serving girl been drained of all of her blood, and Poppy thinks that an Atlantean did it. Atlantean are those people that I told you about in the beginning in chapter 1 from that other kingdom that was overthrown by the current kingdom, that they're made out to be the bad guy, but I didn't think that they were actually going to be the bad guy and they're just actually being framed. But spoiler alert, Mr. Brandel Mazin did it, because of course it was. Later, Poppy sneaks into the library and gives us even more info dumping about the Atlanteans, but this time she's reading it from a book. She's not just info dumping from her own mind, she's reading it to us, because that's much more engaging. And then we learn that the Atlanteans are basically vampires, and then there's werewolves too that are bound to the vampires. They're called Wolven, like I said before. Also important to note, the Ascended don't actually go out during the day. They're nocturnal, so make of that what you will. And then she sneaks back to the scene of the crime where they found this dead girl, and she finds a flower petal on the ground. It's getting bright outside again. What the hell? I don't appreciate all these lighting changes. But yes, Poppy finds a flower petal on the ground, and it's important. Great investigation, Poppy. That's it. She just finds a flower petal on the ground. The next day, she and Rylan go out walking again through the gardens, and then Rylan is killed with an arrow through the heart by a lone attacker who Poppy fights off by herself. This is the first scene where we actually see her do any fighting. And then she's super upset about Rylan's death, like super, super upset about it. Until she sees the new replacement, at least, because surprise, surprise, it's Hawk. The man himself. I'm using my Rare Beauty concealer now for, this is in the shade 150C, just as a highlight under my eyes. There's some emphasis in this part about how weird it is that Hawk has been promoted so soon after arriving in this city, because he's like relatively new, and he's been promoted over a bunch of other guards that have had more experience and they're older. But apparently his skill is unrivaled in the ranks of all of the guards. Cool, that's not suspicious at all. And then during this ceremony where Hawk is sworn in as her new guard, he calls her beautiful, and she reveals herself to him. She swoons as expected when he tells her that she's beautiful. Beautiful, Poppy, even though you told us that you didn't think you were beautiful. Everyone else tells us that you're beautiful. I hate that trope so much. So much. Can we not just have a character that is beautiful and just knows that they're beautiful? If you know of any good ones, please let me know in the comments. The next day, Poppy is summoned to the Duke's office for a lesson, as Poppy calls them. Apparently she looked at the Duke funny during the ceremony where Hawk was sworn in, and he didn't like that. And then she talked to someone she shouldn't have. Like, before this scene, there was a scene in like the atrium where she and a bunch of the other girls were like sitting and like gossiping about shit, but she's not actually allowed to talk to them. And apparently he heard about this, and that's why he's called her in. But really it's because she looked at him funny during the ceremony, and he didn't like that. So he literally calls her in to beat her bareback. Like, literally just beat her with a fucking whip on her bare back as him and Lord Mazin watch. And Lord Mazin like holds her down and like pulls her arms away from her bare chest as they're like beating her. This is one of the most uncomfortable scenes I've ever had to read. But apparently this has been going on for years and no one's done anything about it, even though people know that this has been going on. This was the point in the book where I actually felt the most sympathy for Poppy, and I really wanted these motherfuckers to die. But after this, like, she's all welted on her back from these wounds that she's gotten from these guys, and she gets her wounds tended to. There's an attack on the city suddenly as she's healing by a bunch of these cursed zombies from earlier. They're apparently attacking the Rise. The mist has come in and they're attacking the Rise. They're called Craven. These zombie creatures, they're called Craven. Poppy sees the fires on the rise go out, which is like the signal that something's wrong. And she knows that they're being attacked. So, of course, she needs to be there. She's still healing from her fucking wounds, but she needs to be there in order to help people and be the badass that she is, because she doesn't want to watch while people die like she did when her parents died in front of her. Which, like, sure, I guess. So she runs off to be a badass. What are we doing next? I feel like I need to progress. Bronzer is what we're doing next. I am using the, this one, Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer. It smells like coconuts. I gotta do some maneuvering here. Years of having clothes with no pockets makes you very dexterous with your hands. So on the wall, as she's fighting these monsters, she ends up saving Victor, who, like, one of the monsters goes up behind him and is about to attack when she's like, with a bow and arrow, and she shoots it like right in the head, and he turns to her and he knows it was her. So this whole scene is literally just to pat Poppy on the back for being perfect at using a bow, because she's trained. There's literally no other reason for this scene, because nothing else happens. Anyway, as she's trying to get away from the battle, all successful, Hawk catches up to her and seemingly recognizes her as the girl that he met at the Red Pearl earlier in the book. But wait, this whole time, he's known it was Poppy. Or actually, no, he knew that, he knew that the girl was Poppy. Apparently, as soon as he saw her face during the ceremony, he knew it was her at the Red Pearl. He recognized her or whatever. So they fight a bit, and he pushes her up against a wall. Things get steamy. Their dialogue is insufferable. Wait, I need to backtrack here because I need to read one of the scenes where she's trying to figure out if Hawk actually recognizes her or not. Because this is the perfect representation of how bad this writing is this fucking scene. She's talking to Tawny about Hawk, or not, yeah. Tawny knows everything that happened at the Red Pearl. Her brows slammed down. You're an incredibly suspicious person. I started to deny that, but realized I couldn't. I wisely moved along. He probably just didn't recognize me. A weird mixture of relief and disappointment mingled with a thrill of anticipation. You know what? What? I don't know if I'm relieved or disappointed that he didn't recognize me. Bitch, why do you need to tell me twice? Why do you need to tell me twice that she's relieved and disappointed? This was the line in the book where I realized I just want to throw this out the window. I don't want to read this anymore. Because it's so bad. It's so bad. But yeah, that was before, when she was trying to figure out if Hawk does recognize her from the Red Pearl, because a lot of the tension and the conflict after he becomes her guard is literally her not talking to him at all because she's worried that he's going to recognize her voice or something. But surprise, surprise, he already recognized her and knew that it was her. So back after this battle, they're fighting. He pushes her up against the wall. Things are schemy. There's dialogue, insufferable as usual, blah, 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 blah. Poppy has a slight panic attack, thinking that Hawk might tell the Duke about her little adventure and what she's been doing, but he promises that he won't, and she goes back to her ivory tower. Back in her room later, Hawk busts in and they have one of their only two, like, barely tolerable scenes of dialogue together where they actually open up a little bit to each other. I'm gonna go in with my eyeshadow palettes now and start doing a look. I'm using the two Disney Princess palettes because let's stay on theme, because he likes to call her princess all the time. I might as well use my princess palettes. Not to the princess palettes. I love the princess palettes, but to him calling her princess. I think I'm going to start off with the shade Chip from the It's a Princess Thing palette. So during this conversation, they essentially like to open up to each other a little bit. She tells him about her parents and why she felt compelled to go on the wall to help people, because that's how she got her scars, was when her parents got attacked, and reiterates that the reason that she's fighting the Craven is because she wants to protect her people the way that she couldn't protect her parents. After she like reveals all of this to him, she thinks that he's gonna tell her that she can't do it anymore, that she needs to stay put and whatever. But to her surprise, he only tells her to wear better shoes, which is like, okay, sure, fine, whatever. But that doesn't actually matter because this attack never happens again. There's no other attack. This is the only one, because why would there be another one? Why would we ever follow through on any kind of narrative hook? Why? Why would we do that? So there's no point to that either. So after the attack, the Duke and Duchess address the people of the city in this big scene where we're all gathered on the balcony, and they're addressing their people. They're pretty much just trying to assure them that the gods are still with them and that they're still protecting them, that they were protected the night of the Craven attack by these gods. The gods are very much like an ambiguous kind of figure held over the people, where it's like, oh, you have to do the things that make the gods happy. But then naturally things don't really go as planned during this address, because a bunch of dissenters infiltrate the crowd, and then they start a ruckus claiming that all of the children that are being given to the gods, because there's this thing called the rite where every third and fourth born child is given to the institution, like the government institution, to like be given to the gods in service to them. And so all of these dissenters are claiming that the children are like going missing, and that they're not actually being taken into service, that no one ever sees them again. One of the dissenters from the crowd throws a zombie hand, craven hand, at the Duke and Duchess. They're not too thrilled about that, so they have the guy arrested. And then this whole time, Poppy's gift is kind of like malfunctioning, because she's been starting to feel other feelings other than pain. Like she's feeling fear and not joy, but like anticipation and those kinds of things. And she thinks that her gift is like malfunctioning somehow. We've seen so far several scenes where she's kind of lost control of it and just read the emotions of people around her unwillingly, and gets like super overwhelmed by it and doesn't understand why it's happening. And then it happens again at this address where I don't remember exactly what it is that she was feeling, but she does end up going to see the Duchess about it later, who basically just tells her that it's normal for her power to be evolving and getting stronger. And then she also mentions the previous maiden before Poppy, who's never spoken about anymore, like at all. She's been erased from the history books because the Dark One killed her, which to me seems kind of strange. Like, why would you completely erase her from existence because of that? But we never really hear much about her again, so the point of that, I really don't know what it was. There's a scene now with one of Poppy's teachers where Poppy questions the Ascension, and we actually find out that when the Ascension happens, the Ascender, the person who's meant to ascend, drinks the blood of the gods. Poppy's kind of weirded out by this and compares it to what the Craven do what the Atlanteans do to their victims when they drink their blood. And this pisses the teacher off, and she like raises a hand to Poppy to like beat her, because apparently everyone beats Poppy in this book. Hawk comes to her rescue and doesn't take that shit. Again, she never once defends herself from these people beating on her, because she's worried that the people she loves are going to take the brunt of the consequences. Just like, that's fair. Okay, I get it. Next, I'm gonna go in with the shade Damsel. I'm using the shade Damsel here from the Masquerade palette. So the next scene, she goes to the city library to steal a fucking naughty book. And she nearly gets caught by the Duke when she goes into his personal room, his personal library room. She so conveniently decides to go into that one for some fucking reason. It deliberately tells us that she stops in there to read and then like loses track of time because she's been like so invested in this fucking naughty book that she found. So when the Duke like comes into the room, she has to like hide outside on the ledge of this room, like outside on the balcony, right? Not on the balcony, but like the ledge of the window. Guess who comes to her rescue? It's Mr. Spice and Pine himself. There's literally no point to any of these scenes, I swear to God. But she does overhear that the Duke has captured the guy that threw the hand, and has been like torturing him for information. Oh, also when Hawk shows up to save her, he tells her to get inside from out on the ledge, and she refuses. Literally just because it's him asking her, even though like a couple of pages earlier, she's like, I hope I don't die. But just because he tells her to go inside, she's like, no, I like it out here. But of course, he doesn't let her climb in herself. He has to help her. She can't lift herself up onto that ledge and pull herself into the room. He needs to do it for her. I hate this book so much. Oh, and the physical contact is simmering. And here we go. It's this scene where we get the start of what might be the most annoying subplot to their conversations. She starts to count how many times he says her fucking name. From now until the end of the book, she counts every single time he says her fucking name. I cannot with this book. I have lost the ability to can with this book. Literally, physically, metaphorically, philosophically. Good job. Jennifer. Anyway, they almost kiss, but they don't, because that would be bad. I'm basically just creating the shape of my eyeshadow that I like, which is like along over my crease and out towards my brow. Hopefully the lighting doesn't change too much more. It's already very bright again outside because the sun came back. I'm gonna change the lighting once more and then hopefully it will calm down. The next chapter, they're still in the library. This is after they almost kiss, and it's literally just Hawk asking Poppy about what happened before he showed up, which Poppy recounts like the whole thing. Jennifer, you can cut here. We saw the scene already. You don't need to show us the scene and then show us Poppy telling us about the scene. Like, I don't need to experience this twice. There is so much goddamn repetition in this book. They proceed to have this long ass conversation about shit they've already talked about in the library. Like, y'all, this dude could come back at any second. Leave. Go somewhere else and talk. But no, they want to talk about Hawk's childhood now. The next big scene is the night of the rite, which again is that ceremony where all of the parents give their third and fourth born children to the gods. Gee, I wonder what's happening to them. And it's a big party. Everyone is dressed in red. Again, gee, I wonder what's gonna happen to these children. Everyone's dressed in crimson. There's definitely no symbolism here. And then this Lord Mazin, the guy who was like all weird with her before, he tries to heckle her again, but the only reason he's even in this scene is to serve as a catalyst for Poppy remembering that he smelled like jasmine the night that the woman died. And then she found that flower petal in that room, which was a jasmine flower petal. Does she do anything with this information? No, she does not. She convinces herself that it must have been an Atlantean because only that would explain the wounds. This dumb bitch, I swear to God. So at some point she wants to go back to her room, but Hawk is like, no, let's go walking in the garden. And they go out into the night and they settle underneath this willow tree. This is probably the most cringy conversation that they have together, is this conversation under the tree. In apparently complete darkness. Poppy spends a lot of time telling us that Hawk can somehow magically see in perfect darkness and isn't at all suspicious of that. All she remarks is that, oh, he must have better eyesight than me. Again, I reiterate, this dumb bitch. So they have another like annoyingly shallow conversation. I'm gonna keep applying eyeshadow. What am I doing with my life? I'm gonna go in with the shade Merryweather, which is this dark blue. This dark blue. Yeah, they have another annoyingly shallow conversation where he just condescends to her, which is all that he ever does, and assume that she's incapable of literally anything. Again, that's just what our boy does, because that is what is considered romantic to him. But at the same time tells her that she's amazing and can do everything and she's strong and powerful. Like, you can't have both, my friend. You gotta pick one. Like, you're so strong and capable, but also you can't do anything. Is that considered gaslighting? I literally don't get it. I just don't get it. Pick one angle. Pick one. But they start making out under the willow tree. Big shocker. This big moment that they've built up to, which technically already happened in the second chapter, they start making out under the tree. One thing I will say is that the spicy scenes are actually okay. Like, they're actually pretty decent. They're the one thing I didn't hate about this book. If I could have just forgotten that the characters were who they were, I might have actually enjoyed them. Unfortunately, it's still Poppy and Hawk, so I hate it. After a while, Hawk collects himself and stops kissing her, and then he tells her that he needs to take her back to her room. They leave, and oh my God, Victor finds them and can tell that they were up to no good. He can tell that they've been canoodling. Hawk is sent away, and Poppy's left with Victor, where they have this big argument about her ascension again. And then Poppy says some shit to him that she immediately regrets. And then people start to scream and the whole party's attacked by dissenters. Gee, I wonder what's gonna happen. I hope Poppy gets to apologize to Victor later. Wink. So they realize that they're being attacked. How, you ask? They find the Duke's corpse skewered on a frigging pole, and the cane that he uses to beat Poppy with, like, right through his heart, like, ugh. Hi, editing Bianca here. So I realized there was a couple things that I failed to mention. The Ascended and like other things are part of this like group of creatures who are only able to be killed by getting stabbed through the heart or the brain with bloodstone. But the Duke died
not by that. So I'm not sure how that works. Is he dead or is he not dead? I'm not reading the rest of the book, so I'm not going to find out, but that just seems weird to me that, like, oh, they can only die with bloodstone, but he died with not bloodstone. Doesn't that mean he's not dead? Yeah, I don't know, but that just seems sus to me.
I will preemptively say that this whole attack scene is the only scene that I even remotely enjoyed, and that's only because her abusers get what's coming to them. A fuck ton of people die, and then the Duchess, Lord Mazin, Poppy, Victor, and Tawny, and a bunch of guards fall back to one of the rooms where they are gonna hide in. They're discovered, and then Poppy becomes badass bitch, essentially revealing to everyone that she's been trained this whole time and all of these things that she can do. So like 2 people that didn't know find out. They find out that she can protect herself, but not climb through a window apparently, or put on her own clothes. You'll understand that one later. So she fights a bunch of these dissenters with Victor, and they seem to have killed all of them. Victor turns to Poppy and tells her how proud he is of her. But wait, what's this? Not all of the dissenters are dead. One of them gets up off the ground with his sword, and before Poppy has a chance to see him or do anything about it, he stabs Victor, and Victor dies in her arms. Big shocker. Though I will actually say I did like this last interaction between the 2 of them. Save like one fucking line that I still don't get why she included in here. He tells her, I failed you, ... as a man. What does that mean? What does that mean, Jennifer? So Victor dies, and Hawk finally shows up just as Lord Mazin makes a dumb comment towards Poppy, and she's like seeing red at this point. She's pissed off, and she just goes off on him. Like, she doesn't go off on him with words. Like, she takes a fucking sword to this man. This is the only time I've ever liked Poppy in the book. She just annihilates him, like butchers him completely. Cuts him up into little pieces. And you know what? The dude deserved it. You go off, girl. It's not saying much. The bar is incredibly low, but this was the best scene in the book. After this, she spends like a week grieving the loss of Victor. I get it. She basically just lost her dad. I do feel some sympathy towards her for this part. I'd be upset too. But then she gets summoned to an audience with the Duchess, who doesn't seem at all upset that her husband was murdered. And Poppy thinks she's going to get in trouble for killing Lord Mazin, but the Duchess is actually just super understanding and tells Poppy that she's just going to be taken to the Capitol in the morning. So no consequences for Poppy. I don't think she deserves consequences. She killed her abuser. All good. She's gonna go to the Capitol because apparently things are not safe for her anymore in this city, so she needs to go where it is safe until she can ascend. Oh, one of the things I haven't actually talked about is her ascension is really held up as like, if she ascends, then it's super important for everybody. Like, her ascension is tied to everyone's ascension. So that's why she is so important as the maiden. Like, everyone's ascension is tied to hers. Everyone's survival is tied to her ascension. So there's a lot of pressure on her to actually ascend. At this point, there's roughly 200 pages left in this 600-page book, and we are finally getting to the actual plot. Sort of. So she leaves the city with Hawk and a bunch of other guards, one of them being Hawk's friend, Kieran, from the beginning of the book. You know, the one that Hawk said that funny thing to, and Poppy was like, hee hee. Yeah, that guy that we haven't seen since chapter 1. Or chapter 2, I guess. Actually, all the guards here are from the beginning of the book, because they're all those same guards that she was playing cards with at the beginning of the book. Like, wow, it's a happy little reunion. Just kidding, they all die. But not before Hawk starts feeling Poppy up in the middle of a dangerous fucking forest to help her fall asleep. I will admit, this scene was good, but only because the spice was good. There was some good dirty talk. It was real spicy. I was into it. But the next day, they get attacked by a bunch of Craven, the zombie things. And the first batch of these guards die horrible deaths. Sucks to be them. Poppy reveals her power to all of them when she helps one of the injured guards go peacefully by like taking his pain away or whatever. And they're all amazed. Wow, amazed. I'm amazed at how shitty this book is. So they get to this town and immediately things seem a little sus. Poppy remarks at how strange it is not to see any royal crests anywhere, and that the lord and lady of the town are like gone somewhere. Still, she's not at all suspicious, like at all, about anything. Like, nothing is cause for suspicion with this girl. She gets a room at the inn, she cleans up, and then Hawk comes up to her room. They talk about her power a little bit, and then they fuck. Even though she knows, like, oh, I'm not supposed to do this, I'm the maiden, they still fuck, because of course they do. And then at the end of it, Hawk tells her, no matter what happens tomorrow, or the day after, or whatever. And he makes her promise that she'll never forget this, that this was real. Because again, that's not suspicious at all. The next morning, she wakes up, Hawk is gone somewhere, and one of the other guards goes to her, and he's started like catching on that things are not quite what they seem to be in this little town, that perhaps this was a trap. Would we be surprised? No, we would not. He says that some of the other guards have gone missing and that he doesn't trust Hawk or Kieran because things are a little bit too convenient with them. And he thinks that they've been brought into a trap. But Poppy, this dumb bitch, she's like, but I trust Hawk. And Kieran is Hawk's friend, so I trust him. What motive would this guard have to lie about this? And she legit comes to the conclusion that this guard is the evil one and he must be a dissenter and trying to kidnap her. And then Kieran comes out of his room to confront them, and she's just gobsmacked, downright bamboozled, when this guard attacks Kieran and then Kieran turns into a fucking wolf. What a shocker. Things pretty much spiral out of control from here. Her and the guard run outside to the stables to try to get away from Kieran. She's terrified. She cannot find Hawk anywhere. In the stables, they're attacked by none other than the dude who killed Rylan. Rylan was her first guard, if you remember. We find out his name is Jericho, this guy who killed Rylan. And he hates Poppy. He wants to murder her. Why? I don't know. She said a bad thing to him or something, or she stabbed him when they were fighting in the courtyard, and he's upset that she stabbed him, and now he wants her dead. He wants her dead. That's like the most important thing here. But Hawk comes back, and she freaks out when she sees Kieran behind Hawk, and she tells him, oh, run, Hawk, he's gonna get ya. She thinks he's gonna get attacked, but no, what a surprise. He's their leader. And he tells them all that they need her alive. So the whole plan is out in the open now. Hawk has been their leader from the beginning. The guard that was telling Poppy, like, oh, they're evil, they're trying to capture you. He was right, but Poppy's a dumb bitch who won't listen because she's in love. I'm going back in with my It's a Princess thing. I'm gonna take the shade Midnight Curfew, which is this sparkly black matte in the corner. So yes, the whole plan is out in the open now. We find out that Hawk has known who she was since the Red Pearl. Like, since they met the first time in chapter 2 in the Red Pearl, he's known who she was, and it was actually the plan to meet her there and infiltrate the royal palace and get him close to her, essentially, and gain her trust. Although it makes me question why, when she was at the Red Pearl completely like vulnerable, why didn't they just take her then? Why did they not just take her then? And then obviously Poppy, after all this, feels betrayed, which, like, I guess I would too. This fucker's been lying to you for like 600 pages. He info dumps her while trying to heal her wounds from the battle because she obviously fought back like the badass she is. And he tells her, no, we're actually the good guys, because of course they are. And the people who raised you, they're actually like the evil vampires who've been drinking the blood of all the children they've been given, which, like, big shocker there. It's not like we predicted that or something. And they're basically just keeping all their people complacent through fear, like lying them about these gods and saying like, oh, you got to keep doing this or else the gods are going to get upset. And they're the ones actually like creating all of the zombie vampire things, sending them to kill the people and keep them in fear. So that way they just keep giving them children to feed on. Like, okay, sure, all of this makes sense, but you did still lie to her and try to gaslight her and like gain her trust for like 600 pages, my dude. And now you're telling her that everything she's ever known is a lie. So the whole rest of the book, she kind of keeps flip-flopping between, he betrayed me and I can't forgive that. I'm so mad at him. I'll never forgive him. He's evil. And but I love him and he makes my coochie wet. That's pretty much the whole rest of the book, is her flip-flopping between those two things. These last 100 pages are 100% dedicated to her indecisiveness. Like, even when she acknowledges that, okay, maybe the people that she did know, like her whole life that raised her, are evil, and yeah, that makes sense, she still acknowledges that Hawk and his people are not innocent either, and she still hates him and thinks that he's evil. Like, I get it. Like, yeah, you should be upset that they still lied to you and did all of this shitty stuff. That's one aspect that I do agree with. So yeah, I don't know. I don't like the flip-flopping. I'll say that. I really just don't like the flip-flopping of her being like, oh, I hate this guy. He fucking lied to me, but also he's hot and he makes my coochie wet. So during one of whatever his face is, Hawk's outings, he leaves her with his wolves, and lo and behold, they attack her. This guy Jericho leads a band of these wolven who are evil and want her dead. They try to kill her, and then Hawk comes to her rescue again. This is the closest that she ever gets to death, by the way. Like, she's almost like dead. And then while he is healing her again, we find out that he's not actually Hawk. He is Prince Castile, the Dark One, the Atlantean prince. Who could have seen that coming? Not me. Wink.
Hi, it's me again. So another thing that I realized that I forgot to mention is that the whole reason they even want Poppy, like the baddies want Poppy, baddies, quote unquote baddies, Castile and that company, they want Poppy to basically use as leverage, as like a hostage essentially, in order to get Castile's brother back, because the only way that the Ascended are able to make more Ascended, this old gods thing that they're going on about, is actually Castile's brother, who is being kept by the Ascended in order to create more Ascended. So like, that's how the Ascension ceremony works, is you drink the blood of the old god, which is in this case Castile's brother, and then I believe he drinks the blood from them, because that's the only way that an Ascended can be created, is if they drink your blood and you drink theirs in return. So that's essentially what he's being kept and used for, essentially like a broodmare. And they want to get him back, essentially, and they want to use Poppy in order to get him back. So that's the whole thing. And this part where Poppy is getting healed by Castile, she is drinking his blood because the Atlantean blood is like regenerative for like almost everything. Like, it helps to heal things. They heal each other, but then they also, normal people can be healed by drinking Atlantean blood, I think. At this point, it's been a while since I've read it, but yeah, I believe that's what it is.
And this time, she tries to escape by stabbing him in the fucking heart with her bloodstone dagger. This is a scene that I actually liked. She fucking stabs him, and like, we all think that he's gonna die. I wish that she actually had killed him. But no, apparently he's immune to that, because Atlanteans are apparently immune to that. Like, the only way you can kill them is through the head. Their hearts are fucking invulnerable. But all other vampires are not. You can kill them through the heart. Just Atlanteans are invulnerable to stab wounds through the heart. But he chases her out into the snow as she's trying to escape. He starts to suck her blood, and then they fuck. They actually start just hate fucking in the snow. And when they're done, we're back on the indecisive train with Poppy. She's in love with him, but she also hates him. So they're gathering themselves up after their hate fuck. I think I'm gonna leave it here, actually. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it here, and I'm gonna start throwing some things on my lower lash line. And the lighting has changed again. I'm gonna throw some of that along the lower lash line. Sorry, I'm just trying to catch up because I've been so into reading what this book is about that I'm just super slow with my makeup, but we're all about the experience here right now. I knew that this was gonna be like a hot mess of a video when I first started it, so it's fine. Shit's fine. But yeah, so they're gathering themselves up after their hate fuck, and he starts putting her clothes on for her. Like, she's a 5-year-old fucking child. I swear, for all that this man praises this woman for being able to do shit herself and being strong and capable, he does not let her do fucking anything. Like, anything. And I swear, I know I've said this before, but I swear these last like 30 pages of dialogue in this book are the cringiest of all of them. And that's saying a lot, because there's way too much cringy dialogue in this fucking book. She also refuses to call him by his name for like the rest of the book. Like, she will not call him Castile. She won't call him Hawk. She won't call him Castile. She just calls it him in italics. Oh, another thing that we find out from Hawk, or I guess Prince Castile, is that Poppy is half Atlantean. How does he know this? Because he sucked her blood and he could tell that she was half Atlantean. Oh, I guess because it like revitalized him and was able to make him heal. And only Atlantean blood can do that for other Atlanteans. That's why like they're the good vampires, because Atlanteans only suck the blood of other Atlanteans to keep themselves, to like sustain themselves. Whereas the evil vampires have to suck the blood of mortals because they were once mortal and they were turned into vampires. So they are evil because they're killing mortals and turning them into evil vampires. But Atlanteans are fine. And the whole reason why they wanted Poppy as the maiden is because of her half Atlantean bloodline, because that blood can sustain the ascended, the evil vampires, which are called vampires. I hate it. Her blood can essentially sustain them for forever. So they're keeping her as the maiden when actually they just want her to be like a broodmare of sorts, where they can just keep taking blood from her until forever. And they can't go out into the sun because they'll burn and die. The evil vampires, the vampires, which are the ascended, they can't go out into the sunlight because they will burn and die. Like your traditional vampires are the vampires, the ascended, and then your twilight sparkly vampires are the Atlanteans. Anyway, that's pretty much it. That's the end of the book. They're having dinner in the common room with everyone. Hawk, Castiel, or whatever the fuck this guy's name is. He's nailed all the guys who attacked Poppy to the walls, and he just tells Poppy that they're going home to Atlantia to get married. And that is it. That is the end of the book. That is the last line where he tells Poppy that they're going home to marry. Fuck this dumb book. That's it. Nothing happened. I could not tell you what the actual plot of this book was. Like, I know I just reiterated the whole thing from reading this script that I wrote here, but I cannot tell you what the actual point of the book was. Okay, so now we get into the next part of the review, which is where I give you my fact-based evidence, because I know what you're thinking. Bianca, you say this book is terrible. Where's your proof? Proof, you say. Concrete evidence, you say. Fear not, friends, for we are all about quantitative analysis on this channel. I counted some shit. You're welcome. I repurchased this book on Apple Books just so I could count some shit for you. I didn't count anything. I searched the words and wrote the numbers down. But before I share those with you, I'm just gonna finish this look and then keep talking. Oh, I don't know which shimmers do I want to use? I want to make this dark as hell. Ooh, yeah, I'm going to use this Magic Carpet shade from the It's a Princess Thing palette. This dark purple shimmer. And I'm going to throw that pretty much all over. I've never actually tried mixing these palettes together, but I really like how it looks. I'm achieving what I wanted to achieve. I'm going to throw a little bit of Poison Apple, which is this like kind of bright purple shimmer, over top, just in the middle, because it's fun. Why not? Just to add a little bit of dimension to the color. Yes, yes, yes. Let's bring you in a little bit just so you can see what I'm doing. Just gonna blend out the edges here of the shimmer, kind of bring it in a little more. I think the last thing I'm going to do to the eyes, I'm going to take one of my Cleona shades, this one called Sunbeam, which is this like bright pinky one, on just a small little blending brush. And I'm going to throw that into my inner corner. I'm taking a little bit of that along the bottom as well. I really love these Cleona shades. I think this is one of the glitter multi-chromes, but I'm not sure. It's just really pretty. Anyway, that is the finished eye look. It's nice and dark and smoky. Okay, so if there's one thing this book absolutely loves, it's reusing certain phrases. So what I have gone through and done is I have done the searches in the Apple Books for certain words, certain keywords that I found were repeated over and over in this book. And I've counted how many times those words and phrases were used in the context of the things I was looking for. So let's start off strong. We have jaw. This is in relation to Hawk's jaw specifically because she loves to talk about it. She loves to talk about it. Okay, we have jaw mentioned 20 times in the book. Jaw's hardening or twitching is specifically what I'm looking for. So we have Ryland's jaw hardened. A muscle throbbed in his jaw. Poppy, Victor warned. His jaw tightening. His jaw hardened. Victor's jaw hardened. A muscle flexed along his jaw. His jaw as hard as the limestone around us. Hardened his jaw and pressed his lips into a firm, unyielding line. His jaw clenched. The line of his jaw. A muscle flexed along his jaw. This specifically keeps showing up. A muscle flexed along his jaw. His jaw flexed. His jaw flexing. A muscle in his jaw clenched. His jaw flexed. That's enough. You get the picture. The next one we have is spice and pine, where Poppy likes to describe the scent of Hawk as being spicy. This is mentioned 6 times, specifically spice and pine. So not so bad. So we have something that reminded me of dark spices and pine. He smelled of dark spice and lush smoke. I could practically taste his dark spice and pine. And dark spice of his. Dark spice. It was his scent of lush spice and pine. Oh God. Okay, moving on. The maiden. The maiden, just that word, is mentioned 79 times. Poppy herself, most of them are from her inner dialogue. As the maiden, the chosen. I was the maiden. Tonight I wasn't the maiden. I was the maiden. Even though I was the maiden. We've never had the maiden walk through the door. I was the maiden, the chosen. I was the maiden. This is how many? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 times in the first 2 chapters. I am the maiden. I'm the maiden. I was the maiden. You are the maiden. I was the maiden. I was the maiden. 79 times. Okay, all right, moving on. Princess. So this shocked me because princess is only used in reference to Hawk calling Poppy princess. He calls her princess 77 times. Will you tell me who you are, princess? Princess? I imagine a princess to be demanding. Princess? Then I'll have to keep calling you princess. You've wounded me, princess. Princess, you can learn a wealth of things from just one kiss. I'm right, aren't I, princess? Protecting the rise, princess. Not all guards are good men, princess. Sad things that cannot be changed, princess. I told you the truth, princess. So, princess, will you tell me what you want from me? No, princess. Are you in possession of this, princess? What princess? Princess. Thanks, I hate it. Next is probably my favorite one. Relief and disappointment. It's either relief or relieved. Relief and disappointment is mentioned 6 times. A weird mixture of relief and disappointment. That strange mixture of relief and disappointment. A weird mixture of relief and disappointment. That strange mixture of disappointment and relief. Variety. Weird mix of relief and disappointment. Relief and dismay. I was disappointed or relieved. I don't know if I'm relieved or disappointed. Like before, I wasn't sure if I was relieved or disappointed. Unsure if I was relieved or afraid. Ugh. Shivered. Shivered is mentioned 9 times. A lot of characters shiver. I shivered. I shivered. No matter that I shivered. I shivered at the bluntness of his words. I shivered. I shivered. I shivered in the cold. I shivered as a tight curling motion bloomed low in my stomach. This bitch shivers so much, but not as much as she shudders, because people shudder in this book 23 times. I shuddered. I shuddered inside my heavy cloak. He shuddered. I shuddered. I shuddered. I shuddered. I shuddered as my heart skipped a beat. I shuddered. But you shuddered, she persisted. Hawk shuddered. He shuddered again. I shuddered at what I saw. Victor shuddered. I shuddered in relief. I shuddered. I shuddered, half afraid that he would. I shuddered. My breath caught, and I shuddered. You get the picture. 23 times. 23. Oh, another one of my favorites. The dimple. His lip curved up and a deep dimple appeared. Oh, I haven't told you how many times this is mentioned. 28 times, and this is always in reference to Hawk's dimple. A deep dimple appeared. The one that showed no teeth made the dimple in his right cheek appear. The dimple in his right cheek deepened. That dimple in his right cheek appeared once more. No dimple this time, though. No hint of a dimple to be seen. Hawk had brandished a smile, the one that showed the dimple in his right cheek. The dimple in his right cheek appeared. I'd bet that stupid dimple was gracing the world with its presence. The dimple made an appearance in his right cheek, and I felt the tug low in my stomach. His lips curled up on one side, but there was no dimple. The dimple reappeared. His grin returned, and so did the dimple. I can't. It's so bad. 28 times we were dealing with this. 28 times. The dimple really is the cream of the crop. I'm not gonna lie. There's 40 references to the word forbidden being used in relation to Poppy and the things that she's doing, that I counted anyway. 40. They were forbidden to me, and that was forbidden. Yes, going to the Red Pearl is forbidden. It was expressly forbidden to do so. Parts of the castle were forbidden to me. Strictly forbidden. Things I regularly did were forbidden. You get it. You get it. Oof. The dagger. Poppy's dagger is mentioned 102 times. 15 just in the first 3 chapters. 102 times in this book. You do not need to tell me about her dagger so many times. Like, really, you don't. I'm not even gonna look that one up because I cannot be bothered. Inappropriate is the next one. Inappropriate is said 22 times in this book. I didn't because it would be grossly inappropriate. Incredibly inappropriate. More inappropriate than you reading a dirty journal. This is inappropriate. To be inappropriate. To engage in a particular type of inappropriate behavior. A very inappropriate giggle welled up. Ooh, there we go. The double whammy. Inappropriate and giggle. That word's coming later. That's inappropriate, I told him. For a maiden, this was wholly inappropriate. Or at least the way it felt to be held by him was inappropriate for a maiden. This is wildly inappropriate. All those other inappropriate things. Enough to be wildly inappropriate with me. You seemed inappropriate. So inappropriate, I muttered. Intrigued is the next word that she likes to use. Intrigued or intriguing, we have 2 different entries for this one. Hawk is intrigued 10 times. I'm intrigued by you. I have nowhere to be at the moment, and I'm intrigued. Intrigued, intrigued, intrigued? What I am is intrigued. He'd been intrigued from the start. 10 times. 10 times we're using the word intrigued, but intriguing, we have that 7 times. Intriguing is your favorite word, I told him. It's also Jennifer's favorite word. You're intriguing. Why is that intriguing? That will be intriguing. When are you not intriguing? Hawk was ... intriguing. Giggle. Take a moment right now, pause the video, and take a guess at how many times people giggle in this book. Just take a wild guess. Just take a wild guess. It's not super high of a number, but it's still too high to exist in this book. And then when you come back, I'll tell you. Okay, this is your sign. Pause. Pause. Welcome back. I'm curious to see how many times you think they giggle. The answer is 17. Too many times. 17 too many times. A small giggle left me. I giggled, knowing Tawny would have done just that. She giggled. I would have giggled. A hysterical giggle. Tawny stifled a giggle. Dafina whispered with a giggle. Tawny made a poor attempt to smother her giggle. A light giggle left Tawny. A nervous giggle left me. I smiled when Tawny giggled. Giggle welled up. A high, panicked giggle snuck out. The strangest urge to giggle. I giggled. A startled giggle burst from me. A giggle burst free. My brain cells. They don't exist anymore. I counted how many times a character's mouth just hung open or fell open, or a character opened their mouth and then promptly closed it again without saying anything. Mostly Poppy does this, and too many people leave their mouths hanging open in this book. 50 times. 50 times. I opened my mouth to deny that statement. My mouth dropped open. I opened my mouth and then clamped it shut. I opened my mouth and then closed it. I opened my mouth to speak, but there were no words. I opened my mouth. I snapped my mouth shut. This also happens a lot. Snapping mouths shut. She opened her mouth, closed it. I snapped my mouth shut. I clamped my mouth shut. I opened my mouth and then closed it. Stunned, my mouth dropped open. Clamping my mouth shut. Opening my mouth. I had no idea where to start. My mouth dropped open. Tawny's mouth dropped open. Tawny snapped her mouth shut. I snapped my mouth shut. I opened my mouth. I snapped my mouth shut. I opened my mouth, but I didn't know what to say. I opened my mouth. My mouth dropped open. I snapped my mouth shut. My mouth dropped open. Do you get it? Do you understand? And then finally, we have 21 references to Poppy's training in some regard. I'm not going to read through those because they're kind of boring, to be honest. But the most amusing are for sure the mouth and the dimple. I can't with the dimple. I just can't. It's so good. So there were some examples of certain phrases that Miss Jennifer Armentrout likes to use over and over and over in this book, to the point where if you took all of those phrases and just rearranged them in certain ways, in different ways, you would basically just get the whole book. So I'm gonna finish applying my makeup, I guess. I'll throw on my mascara. I'll do my eyebrows off camera, but I'm using the Rare Beauty mascara here. It's been like 3 hours at this point and I'm still talking and applying my makeup. It's a process. It's a process. I just feel so strongly about this fucking book. I'm not super thrilled about this look, but it's fine. It achieved what I was trying to achieve, which was basically just to throw something on my face while I read my horrible thoughts about this book. But my final thoughts, if you can't tell, I hated this book. It's the worst thing I've ever read. There's only one book that I actively disliked enough to stop reading, and that was 50 Shades of Grey. I did finish this one just to give it a fair shot. I was hoping that maybe by some fucking miracle it might get better by the end. It didn't. So just some like kind of offhand remarks about it. She does the same thing in her books that I don't like when Sarah J Maas does it, and that's use the terms male and female. I really don't like that. It's just me. I don't care if there's humans and non-humans and that's how you distinguish between them. Just use man, woman, whatever, or like person. Like, I get it. We get it, I promise. We get it that they're not human, but you can still, like, I just hate male and female. It just feels forced and bad. So, not a fan. These people also talk like, not only like they're 30 pretending to be 18, but they also talk like they're in 2021. Like, they use phrases like friggin' and freaking, I guess. I don't remember what, but the speech patterns are just so jarringly modern. And I get that it's fantasy, but it's meant to be old fantasy. It's meant to be like a medieval fantasy of sorts. It's supposed to be medieval fantasy, and you're using like 2021 jargon. So like, I can't. I just, no, big no. This was the CoverGirl Clean Lash Blast. I used it on my bottom lash line. Oh, I didn't put any powder on. Probably too late now, but I'm gonna go in with the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Powder under my eyes for whatever good it does me now. Been hours. This book is all tell and no show. In the first few chapters, I'm literally told everything. I'm told that Poppy is this badass bitch, and I'm just supposed to believe that. I'm never shown that, except maybe in like 3 scenes in this whole freaking book. Am I actually shown that Poppy has any kind of combat prowess? No show to be seen at all. I'm told everything, and that's just not my preferred way of reading information. She sure likes to tell me about how trained Poppy is and how competent she is and how well she can use a dagger and a sword and all of that. And I'm like, bitch, where? The dialogue is just so cringy all the way through. Like, there were so many moments where I was reading it and I read a line and my head just like rolled back, like hitting the wall, and I was like, oh, eye roll. Horrible. Cringiest dialogue I think I've ever read in a book. And like, everyone on TikTok and Twitter were going crazy over this book saying, oh, it's so spicy, it's so good, there's so much fan art of it. And I don't understand why. I don't get it. It's not good. It's not well written. The characters are insufferable. Every scene goes on for ages, longer than it should. And there's so much damn repetition, as you saw in the previous section with all of the different repeated phrases. There's so much damn repetition in this book. I cannot stand it. I'm gonna go in with my blush. I'm using the Enchanted Mirror one from the Masquerade collection from ColourPop. I'm gonna use my Kaleidos blush brush to apply this. Again, I reiterate that I feel like this book is just a series of the author's favorite phrases, just back to back to back to back and rearranged in different orders, and that's basically the whole book. Most of this book is spent inside Poppy's head as she's confused about literally everything. Her whole life, she's like, I don't know if I want to ascend, but it's my duty. But I don't know if I want to ascend, but it's my duty. Literally that, just on repeat for the whole freaking book, until she finally figures out, maybe I don't want to ascend. Maybe I'll ask if I don't have to ascend. It's like, we've had this conflict since the beginning, and literally you're just back and forth constantly, and I don't have patience for it. Like literally every chapter, at least once a chapter, we get some kind of inner monologue from Poppy telling us how she doesn't know if she wants to ascend, but she doesn't figure that out. Like she has this whole inner monologue where she's like, oh, I don't know if I want to ascend. She doesn't know that she does not know that she wants to ascend. She doesn't know that she doesn't know that she doesn't want to ascend, even though we have this conversation every single chapter. And Poppy is just like the dumbest, densest bitch. She forgets to put on her shoes, and then she forgets to put on her veil. But that only happens once, and we're expected to believe that she's quirky somehow. The whole book, I'm told how strong and capable and like murderous she is, because Hawke likes to tell her how murderous she is. Nothing except for like a couple of scenes actually shows me that she is that way, and not in any like meaningful way either. Like I feel like the scenes where, except the one scene with the Lord Mazin, every other scene where we see Poppy being a badass, it literally feels like that scene exists just to make her look like a badass. Like it doesn't serve the plot or the story in any way. It literally just exists to show us that she's a badass, and that's the only reason that it exists. But then the rest of the time she's just like a bumbling idiot whenever Hawke is within a 5-meter distance from her, or like breathes in her general direction. Her ability to do literally anything stops when Hawke is anywhere in the vicinity.
So this is the last time you're going to hear from me, I promise. But I remembered one thing that I really didn't like about Poppy, and I feel like it's an important one to note, and that is she did not drive the plot forward at all. Like, at all. She didn't make any kind of meaningful choices to push the plot forward. It kind of just happened to her and around her, and that's not really what I'm looking for in a protagonist. It's not very interesting. Like, I do not want someone who is like a passive participant in their own plot. Like I like my protagonist to be a little bit more active, and not just in instances where the scene is literally just set up to make them look like a badass. That's not really what I'm into, because those scenes make no sense. Like there's no reason for them to be in there. They don't drive the plot forward at all. So yeah.
I kept forgetting what was happening in certain scenes as well, because one little thing will trigger like 3 or 4 pages of info dumping, and by the time we go back to the scene, I have to go back and reread what happened because I cannot remember. There was so much info dumping and so much exposition that happened inside the inner monologue that I had to go back and read the scene to remember what the hell the scene was about. Because she just like pauses in between scenes for like 3 pages of exposition. It's like, this is not how you do things. It's just really not good. It's just really not good. Ugh, fine, I'll finish this makeup look. Am I gonna do anything with my eyebrows? I'm just gonna brush them out because I can't be bothered to do much else to them right now. I have to go to the bathroom and put soap in them if I really want to. I'll do that. I'll be right back. We're back and we have eyebrows. The last thing I need to apply is lipstick and highlighter. We'll do the highlighter first. And yeah, I guess final thoughts. I hated this book so much. Super cringy. There was nothing redeemable about any of the characters. Hawke is horrible. He lied to her for a while. She's a dumb bitch. I hate her. Every single interaction was so cringy between the two of them. I did not believe the love story whatsoever. There was like next to no actual connection between the two of them beyond like maybe 2 conversations. So like by the end of it, he's just hot. He's literally just hot, and that's what makes her be like, I love him. But at the same time, she's 18 and has never experienced anything, so it's almost like quote unquote realistic that she might believe this to be love when it isn't. This is the thing that might have made it better, is if Hawke had not been the Dark Prince or whatever, if he had just been a dude and the Prince Castile did end up like taking her away, and there was kind of like a what Court of Thorns and Roses does, spoiler for that if you haven't read it, where you think she's gonna end up with one guy and then she ends up with the other guy. That would have been a little bit more acceptable in my opinion, because it's a little bit more realistic for like young love, if that makes sense at all, because she's 18, right? You have to remember she's 18. Like, what does she know about love? And now she thinks that she's in love with this dude. And I think I would have liked it more if they perhaps had hinted at, oh, there's this other guy that she's going to end up falling in love with, even though she loves this Hawk dude. He's possibly not the right one for her, and she's going to learn that real love looks like something else, you know? I would have forgiven something like that, and that's kind of what I was hoping for as I was reading through it. I was like, oh, I really hope that Hawk is not the Dark Prince, and that this is a completely different character that she ends up with, because I kind of really like that trope. But that is not what we got. We got instead a love that doesn't feel earned or make any kind of sense. So yeah, that's pretty much it on my thoughts about the book. Let me see if there's any other fucking lines in here that made me laugh. I loved this line. Anger hit my blood like wildfire. Desperate? Why would my presence on the rise signal desperation when, as you've seen, I know how to use a bow? Oh, wait, is it because I happen to have breasts? Stop flexing. Stop it. Stop. I'm just so mad. This book makes me so angry. I wanted to throw it out the freaking window. Anyway, I'm going to use, oh, I don't know which lipstick I want to use. I'm leaning towards either Belle or Flynn. I feel like Flynn might be a little too dark. Oh, let's go. I'm gonna go with Flynn because I haven't worn this one in a while. Pat it out. I really like these ColourPop Luxe lips because they're really easy to kind of blot out and get a really beautiful wash of color without like committing to a full lip, you know? I think this one's actually still available on their website last time I checked. I feel like those have been all of my thoughts about this book, just sprinkled kind of throughout this. I hated it, hates it, precious, I hates it. And that is the look completed. Oh, for my highlighter, I used the Rare Beauty liquid highlighter in the shade Mesmerize. My powder that I used all over my face was the Kosas Cloud Set in the shade Breezy. Yeah, I think that's it. That's all that I used. I don't know how successful the makeup look was today because I kind of forgot to do my makeup for a lot of parts of this video. It's a long one, but I kind of enjoyed writing this out and ranting and getting all of my negative energy out about this book because there was so much. I don't know if I'm going to make this a series because I did enjoy this. For going forward, if I read the second one, my plan is not to read the second one. I really don't want to prolong my suffering. But if this video does well and if people want to see me read the next book, then perhaps I will, but I might do it a little bit differently where I film myself reading a couple parts of the book so that way I don't have to refresh myself with like a script at the end of it, and I might just take you along on the process. So let me know if that's something that you want to see, because I can do that. I really don't want to read the next book, but if there's demand for it, I'll do it because this was such a struggle. I hated this book so much. It was so bad. I don't want to read about Spice and Pine ever again. I don't want to hear about anybody's dimples. Anyway, that has been it for me. My suffering is at an end. Finally, I can throw this book out the window because I'm done with it. I have kept it here forever with all of these little sticky notes in them. I was lied to, and I feel personally slighted by TikTok. Unacceptable. Unforgivable. Anyway, thank you for hanging out with me today. I hope this was in some way enjoyable and funny. Can you just see the light leave my eyes as I went through this video? Because I could feel the light leaving. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next video.